You are listening now to the Spirituality Now podcast, the show that is solely focused on practical spirituality, leadership, and mindset skills with the aim and purpose of supporting you master your life. Welcome to the Spirituality Now podcast. Welcome to the Spirituality Now podcast. Now podcast. I am your host, Yvonne de la Flor, and I'm going to tell you something just to start right away in the show. I mean, those of you who are watching on YouTube, you can see the glorious, magnanimous, I don't even want to say the word goddess because that's so misused these days, but magnanimous human figure here with us. And I want to tell you that when I received her bios, knowing her personally, I was like, what is this? It was like just a little glance of someone that has devoted her wisdom, her path, her pain, her sorrows, shifting them into wisdom, even more wisdom and life, into serving humanity in a way that I have met very few people doing it, which is impacting others through wisdom, impacting others through knowledge. And she is not only spiritually, fundamentally based, but also business-wise, she is a truly wizard. So I am going to share a little bit of her bio today. We will explore who she is more during the podcast, but I just want you to know that whatever I say, it doesn't do justice to what this incredible human is doing for our planet and for all sentient beings. So I'm going to go with this. So for over 8 years, my beloved ally and friend Katerina Satori has been serving inspiration, wisdom, and value content to a global community of thousands. And really, the thousands are just multiplying. After she arrived in the USA with just $3 in her name, Katerina created herself as a self-made entrepreneur, offering 22 digital courses on business and mystical mastery. And mastery is a key word for this podcast. She has earned multiple high six figures through the online courses creator platform Kajabi alone, which recently Kajabi, because of her story and her success and fulfillment stories and the success she's creating for others, invited her to her offices. She did this all organically. I mean, when I say organic, it's real, genius organic, without ads or any funnels. For her rapid success as a 3 times Kajabi hero, that's how Kajabi calls it, that's where Kajabi invited Katerina to speak at their Impact Conference. Katerina is also an Amazon best-selling author and runs an international recognized educational company. We're going to talk about that. As a sought-after mentor for thought leaders, 7 to 8 figure entrepreneurs and CEOs, Katerina helps her clients transcend stock attachments, embody their genius, and ascend into ecstatic co-creation with life. In Katerina's words, she loves helping people turn their wisdom into wealth so they have all resources required to fulfill their soul's missions and leave their legacy now. My ally, I am, I've been 100 and something episodes waiting for you. Focusing on building this podcast, better, just to honor the path. You have been instrumental in my business life. I don't want to tell you publicly because when we found each other again in Las Vegas, we'll maybe touch base in that. I was going through such a challenging time, and I was very biased as a spiritual, in quote, teacher. I was very biased. Business was not something that was really seen in me as something, as a potential portal for continue to serve sentient beings. And when you arrive with your magnanimous business codes, wisdom codes, business beauty codes, and system codes, I was like, where have I been? Right? Where have I been? And so it is an honor to have you today. Welcome to the show, beloved ally.
I love going back into the memory line and having that moment where we met in a juice place, because I was impacted by your creations before I met you in person. I was introduced to your work and to this powerful transmissions that you were bringing through. It was such a gift, Yvonne, to meet you in person, and then we were just spontaneously, we wanted to create together, and we wanted to, because we know we serve the same mission. We serve the same mission in motion. I'm so glad to be here. 111 podcasts already.
Oh,
Wow.
we had 160 something, and by the time your podcast comes out, hopefully we'll be under 200s. Hopefully, I know we're gonna get a numerology right number for your podcast, right? Because why not? So my ally. So your genius and your faith in motion, and you just said mission in motion, didn't started with all this grace and all this beauty and wisdom that you exude and that you somehow summon from anyone that you serve. I have witnessed clients of yours really come out of their shell and become these wow, magnanimous, powerful, beautiful beings that not only are beautiful and wise, but also they get their systems in place. It's like you build an army of wisdom. Right. This is my testimony of yours, and also my team. Rebecca and everyone. Our businesses, which is a challenge sometimes to name it in spirituality, right? Just began to thrive meeting you. So, but let me go to the beginning, because in your bio and in your life, and I know your story, which it's so moving for me. You came to the United States from Russia, right? And really thrived from what very few will be able to survive, from childhood wounds, from a systemic family system that, I mean, only you and I know, but a systemic family system that many people will find a challenge with. And you turn it around, you alchemize it into wisdom. So share a little bit about your story. I know probably you have done thousands or hundreds of interviews where this is in place, but I think this is important for people to know that who you have become today, you really had to go through the mud of the lotus flowers. So please share with us a little bit.
I love talking about the mud, because the moment we start appreciating the mud, we can really see the beauty of transformation. I deeply believe life gives us these moments of destiny, these moments of choice, and they require such courage and such leap of faith and such trust. But every time we walk through them and meet the moments of destiny, we are never the same. We are opening up the strength, the vision, and a sense of wonder. What else is possible? So the biggest impact in my life, as you know, Yvonne, since you took me through a transcendental rebirth, but the biggest trauma of my life happened when I was still a fetus in my mother's womb at 5 months. And since we're imprinted by the fears of our mother, my mother was so young and so vulnerable. And when she was pregnant with me, she already had a toddler, a year-old toddler, my sister. And my dad, whom she just recently met on the beach, swimming in the ocean, and thought, oh, it's just going to be like a little summer fling. And she got pregnant with me immediately. And 5 months into the pregnancy, my dad gets into a horrific accident and tragedy. And he drives and sleeps on the road and knocks two people who just randomly cross the street. I grew up in Russia, where we have a very different traffic policies than in the US. In the US, people wait for the red light and the green light. In Russia, you just kind of like cross the streets. The people drive crazy. You got to really watch for it. So my dad was on the road driving and hit two people, and one person didn't make it, died on a spot. And in that moment, my dad, who was 26 years old at that time, his dreams died on that day. because he was training to become a Navy Academy officer, right? And that was a very prestigious future at that time. And when you have a criminal record, because when he was put into trial and investigation, they found out he wasn't fully sober behind the wheel. My father had a problem with alcohol even before I was born. So he was tipsy, irresponsible, one of those decisions that we make driven by unconscious mind, right? And that decision was a pivotal point in his destiny. And after investigation, he was sent into jail for, I believe, 4 years. And because my father is a very peaceful, calm person, he was let out 2 years early. But what happened, he had criminal record on his record, and he couldn't access the education, he couldn't get the best jobs. And it's almost kind of like having that mark on your life. And that was the time during the Soviet Union where the country was 80 years without any spirituality. So if you had an experience like this traumatic event, like my father, you didn't have access to therapists, psychologists, spiritual elder. You had none of that. You were pushed aside as an outcast to society and kind of expected to deal with it. So when I think of myself at 26 years old, I'm like, how are you supposed to deal with a trauma of this nature where you're about to become a father, right? His wife is 5 months pregnant with me, and you feel tremendous sense of shame and guilt, and you feel like a complete disaster, right? That's what I imagine my father felt. So my father became really just struggling with that impact and trauma and drinking his grief in the bottle, and which created a strain on my relationship with my mother. So when I was born, my parents were already separated, and my mom, if she was in survival before I came to the world, this was like next level of survival. So I grew up in the atmosphere of constant uncertainty. Like you never know what tomorrow would happen, so prepare for the worst. That was the conditioning. Oh, we made it. We have food today. Things did not fully collapse, but always kind of prepare for the worst, right? That kind of mentality, that kind of energy. And I remember as a child, I was 7 years old, and I'm looking around and I'm thinking, if I want a different life, I gotta create it. Like no one is gonna open any doors for me. I gotta create it. And at 7 years old, I started thinking, what do I do? Because I had this desire to see the world. As a child, I was like, I want to go on the plane. I want to see how big and beautiful this world is. And I knew my mom could not support that dream and nobody in the environment. So it was up to me. And 2 years later, when I was around 9, I had an idea. And I had an idea, if I learn a language that I can speak anywhere in the world, I can go anywhere in the world. So I dove into learning English from books and tapes and whatever education that was available in school. And I had this deep passion for learning because the family environment was so turbulent. We had domestic violence, we had drinking binges. I grew up with 5 different stepdads. Not all at the same time, but one relationship my mom would be in, another one, and each one was just a little bit more crazy than the one before, which also added another layer of wounds and another layer of feeling unsafe in the world. One of them uh, sexually molested us. Another one emotionally abused us. Another one, just like a man child, right? Who was a total burden for my mother. It was just a clown show, Yvonne, like that kind of environment. And so when people tell me, you're so brave, you left at 17 years old, I say, no, you don't understand. This was a necessity. I couldn't wait to change my environment so I can begin to build my life. in a way. So I left at 17. And I remember having this conversation with my mom, and I say, Mom, thank you for trusting me. I'm going to go and create my life now. And I left and I went my very first college all the way across to the other side of the country. I went to Ukraine to my very first college. And it was a college that had a lot of American teachers who were volunteers. It was a theology school. And because I loved God, I loved spirit, I had this innate connection to source as a child, and none in my environment practiced spirituality. Like, there was zero spirituality environment. I was naturally connected. So I followed that spiritual path, intuitively seeking any spiritual community that was around me. And when I went to my first college, half of the professors were Americans. And when I was around them, I was immediately inspired by how different their mindset was, how different they saw their life. They didn't feel like they were caged into, this is my life, this is my program, this is my circumstances, so this is what I have. Like they, right? And if you need to pause me, just pause me if I'm going too long.
You're sharing it in such a powerful and clear way that your story, and I want to invite the people that are listening to this podcast, fit yourself into there. Maybe you didn't live exactly what Katerina lived, but we all have these narrative and stories. But you being able to highlight the 7-year old, the 9-year old that you had an idea. For me, I didn't know that. I've heard it before, but it's just those moments of grace, those moments where the A Course in Miracle calls it the holy instant, right? And when you took the action and you made a decision, so you are the evidence that it's not about age or about circumstances or environment. It's about what you do with that idea, what you do with that evolutionary impulse that we all have. And I'm really, you please continue, because I think this is a benefit to anyone that listens. Again, put yourself in the story. Perhaps you didn't go through the same, but you will be able to spotlight those moments where an idea, a prompt from the divine told you, you will be making not only a life, but you will not survive, but also thrive. So keep going, my ally.
And that exactly is the how the path was unfolding. I also felt from early age, Yvonne, that this lifetime I have a certain mission. I have a certain assignment. There was an element of, I am here for a reason and I incarnated into this family for a reason. And I remember, so when I was in that college and I saw people operating on a different level of mind, I wanted to be around them more. I want to see the country where people live more free and more liberated. And I did not feel that in Russia. And people ask me, why did you leave Russia? And I say, because for the duration of my life, I simply would not see the change in that country that would allow me to fulfill my soul task. So I needed to shift my environment so at least I move forward without somebody constantly putting the blocks ahead of me. So when I came to US, and the first time I came as a tourist, it was a gift from two of my professors whom I was in service to. This is also a powerful teaching, like none of these opportunities were just gifted to me in a silver platter because I have good looks or I have a pleasing personality. Like that is basic, right? But it's because I was intuitively putting myself into position of service. Right. And there were these beautiful, amazing professors who were volunteers, and they had 3 kids that needed babysitting. And I would always volunteer for them and I would support them. And at the end of the school year, they said, we want to ask you if you want to come to US with us for 3 months. We will take care of your flight. We'll take care of you'll live with us. And we just wanted to say thank you for everything you did for our family. And I was like, what? So these kind of experiences were happening for me. every time I would volunteer, right, as a summer camp counselor, as a church leader in my local church. But it was always these, you put yourself into service to life without attachments, without expectations. And then seemingly miraculously, all these beautiful things happen. But you get to put yourself in service to life. And when I came to US for the first time, Yvonne, I felt immediate yes. I felt this is my land. And I came to the East Coast, which is very different from the West Coast. I felt this is my land. And here's a very powerful moment. I'll never forget that because I walk around the neighborhood, a regular suburban neighborhood in Wilmington, Delaware. And I had this full body recognition. I found my home. I found my land. And then this deep prayer came out of me. And I said, Spirit, you brought me here by the hand of grace. I'm only here for 3 months. I'm going to respect my promise. I'm going to come back. I'm not going to illegally stay here. I can, but I choose not to do that. I choose to come back. But my prayer is to return to this country. And you know how. I don't know how, but you know how. And after 3 months, Yvonne, I went back to Russia. And when I came back, I immediately felt the difference of the collective mind, a society. And I remember telling myself, I only have two choices from now on. I gotta become depressed here, or I gotta find a way to come back, right? And Spirit knows how. And in 2 years, I had an opportunity. I went to a different college in Lithuania. And again, everything by faith. You have the program Faith in Action. That's my entire life. And all the time, Spirit would give me just enough provision for that next leg of the journey. It was not always, here's the bag of resources for you. Now go, my child, create your life. It was like, here's enough for the train ticket. And now you have a vision and you have faith and action and you move forward. And I remember I came to US after a huge, big initiatory journey. And I came to US, and after I put everything on the line, I literally had $3 left, right? And thank goodness I flew into tiny little town of Skagway where there is one airport and you can actually walk from airport to town. And I remember dragging my little suitcase. I had a place to stay. I was staying on one of those trailers for workers, right? And my job was housekeeping, right? I remember my initiation in toilet cleaning, right? In
I love
room.
that. Okay, can we just pause for a moment? Okay, because your story, you're such an incredible storyteller, so compelling. But that part is one of my favorite parts of your story, like the initiation into. By the way, the light keeps following you. It doesn't matter where you go. The song will go wherever you are, and people are going to enjoy it. But the initiatory journey of cleaning toilets, that has always been. I respect you so much because this is, what entrepreneurs do. If you are not willing to do everything, how are you going to even become everything, right? There's a humility, a humbleness where strength comes from, right? And you doing that. So tell us a little bit about the initiatory journey of cleaning toilets. How was that, Mayala, for you?
Well, I remember, and it was so surprising as well because I experienced the clash of cultures, right? And the when I came here and they assigned me this holy task to be a housekeeper, and I was like, housekeeping, I can do that. My mom drilled it into my awareness. If you do something, do it well or don't touch it at all. So, I was really good at cleaning. So I cleaned every room. My ally, by the end of first 2 weeks, I received a reward for being the best housekeeper in that hotel. I was so surprised. And I remember thinking, this country is so different. They actually reward you for doing the job well. Growing up in the communism, there was very little individual motivation, because if you were a professor in the university, or if you were a construction worker, you were paid the same amount, right? So it was really fascinating. And then I was like, yeah, I can do this. And then one day I come to my work, and they said, today, before you go to your rooms, you got to do a different task. You got to go clean, attend to the bathrooms. And I'm thinking they're just going to give me female bathrooms, but they gave me a man bathroom and a female bathroom. And I had this moment that was like, oh my gosh, at that moment, Yvonne, I was already working on my second bachelor degree. It was a humility soup, right? That here I am, college graduate, working in my second degree, and I am starting from ground humility soup, cleaning toilets. And that moment is one of the best moments, because it was a moment of destiny. Always, how do you show up in little? Because I left that job in 30 days. I said to myself, this situation, it's not really going to help me save enough money to pay for my school. So I got to pivot and I got to do something different. Entrepreneurial moment right here. I went to my town and start going business to business to business, store to store to store, and saying, hi, I am an international student here during the summer, and I am good with people. I'm a hard worker. I am responsible. Do you need help in your business? And they're like, hired. Yes, we need you. So I left the housekeeping job after 30 days, and I got 2 jobs. And that was, such a also turning point, because again, it's like, don't wait, create your opportunities.
Exactly. So, Maya, like, wait, I can only imagine if I was on the other side of the door and I opened the door and this is Katerina. Hi. I it's what a blessing, mutual blessing, and what a motivation the toilet was to go into, to let the toilet, be a teacher, to let from the toilet to let. So, my ally, so you that I have witness of you something. You just said pivot, and I think you're a professional pivoteer. That's how I call you. I've I've never seen someone pivoting everything in a scalable growth, because you not only pivot, we all pivot like this and that, but you are like pivot and let's now speak at the Kajabi offices now. It's such a scale that this is where I'm going to ask you, from being, you were led by spirit, you were using your own inner strength and your faith into action to move forward in life and take everything. I mean, I just love that you just said about the United States, because I'm from Mexico too, and here the United States have been an incredible country for me, right? That you said, wow, this country actually rewards you from doing your work well. That right there, for anyone here criticizing the United States of America, that right there is an incredible tribute for this land. And we sometimes take for granted how blessed we are to live in a country that actually rewards good work. That's just number one highlight. But the second is, like, you are led by spirit. I mean, you are a faith in motion and faith in action, steward. You definitely are. I mean, you are the walking evidence of faith. You don't have faith, you are faith, right? But then you go into business and this very spiritual, strong soul that you have. So how was it? You enter into business. How did you transition? How did you open the closet of the, I'm coming out of the closet. I'm this spiritual mentor, master, teacher that can help you not only bring spirituality to your business, but actually scale and be prosperous and just, let yourself go from the jail, the confinement of your own belief process. So share about this incredible alchemy that you went through.
I see true embodied mastery is the mastery not only of our inner life, but of our outer life. And so many times in the past, people would swing into extremes, me including, where we only attend to our spiritual life and we deem our physical life as unimportant or not worthy to attend. But where is mastery in that? So I see the world of business is another extension of our spiritual path. How do we approach our business as a prayer, as devotion? And how do we become these multifaceted diamonds of souls that we continue flowering in many different directions? It was a crucial moment, Yvonne, this summer when I was going through a deep alchemy that looked like a death of the old identity. And I was in the gap. I was rewiring, re-encoding my life and everything that I felt called to experience. And the prayer was, all I want is to be creatively free. All I want is to trust my intuition above all. Once you learn business fundamentals, once you learn the essentials, then the real freedom begins. You begin to trust your intuitive genius. You begin to work directly with your inner muse, right? That guides you. You begin to directly work with the vision. And there was a point in my business journey where I was tired of bro marketing. I was tired, being told that you only need one offer and one approach and one formula. And it just felt so suffocating for my soul. And I said, what if right?
Oh, you're talking, I'm like, I feel like a church moment. I'm in the audience saying, "Hey, man, preach," Man, it's so true, Ally.
Yeah. Can we give ourselves permission to bloom in our own unique way? And to continue to bloom, right? So we are spiritual mentors who also can empower people in unlocking their gifts and putting systems in place, in creating ripples of change in the community. All of that requires organizational skills and business skills. And you know who one of my favorite inspirations beside yourself, you are my inspiration of, the fifth line in action, is Yogananda, which,
100%.
right? Yogananda, who was a monk, a devoted yogi. And when I read his biographies, when I read his writings, you can see that he had moments of deep discomfort with needing to step into the role of leader of the organization, right? And a person who is becoming a businessman, becoming a promoter, becoming a marketer, right? What are looks like a very different sides of self to bring forth. But to me, that's the true mastery, right? Where you're creatively developed, but you also practically system business developed. This is not an option anymore moving forward. This right?
So my ally, Christina as Marie, that was in our podcast too, and an ally that I met thanks to you, and I went to visit a monastery. We thought about you so much. We prayed the Katerina Satori prayer, because we still feel, in these monasteries and in these places, there's still a feeling that prosperity and business and all of that is not sacred, right? There's not this. I love that you brought Yogananda, because Yogananda, you came from Russia to America with $3. He came with nothing but his plane ticket that they were able to gather, with donations in India. His teacher, Sri Yukteswar, sent him, and he's like, "Why do you do this to me?" He was begging the master, "Don't send me to America. I want to stay by your side." And he comes without money, without anything but faith and his Kriya Yoga abilities. And from there, they built this incredible, I'm going to call it spiritual empire. right? Called Self-Realization Fellowship, that is just, it keeps expanding and supporting millions of people daily, becoming clear, meditation with Kriya practice and all of that. So if we are against prosperity, against business, against money, we're part of against of half of our life. Because since the ancient times, the Bible, there's a phrase in the Bible, a parable in the Bible that says God gives you a talent and it's your job to multiply it. So we were, Christina and I, in this, and we there was a sense of the, there's the people against prosperity gospel. Well, there is such thing as anti-prosperity gospel too. They don't call it that way, right? But they don't know that they are the same polarity. So talk about a little bit about that. Why do we require to tap into the prosperity, the abundance codes, as you call them, and bridge? I love that you said business is an extension of our spirituality. That, I mean, you have so many like bomb dropping moments here that I'm just writing the best of my ability I can, making notes. But tell us, why is it beneficial? How is it good for our health, for our society, for our communities, right? And then from there, we will move into the new creations that you are having, and a couple of other things, surprises maybe for the people that want to listen to this podcast. So let's talk about prosperity. Let's challenge the system right now and talk. Bring it on, my ally. Bring it
Bring
on.
it on. Yeah. Prosperity is a natural flowering of awakened consciousness, right? Prosperity comes from gratitude and also from choosing to actualize your full potential. It only looks like it's easier to be the half version of yourself. The half version of yourself never feels satisfying. If you really dare to actualize your full divine potential, then you gotta master your ability to generate resources that are required for your life and for your mission and for your life task. And to me, prosperity has always been about freedom of choice. When I have more access to resources, I am able to do so much more. I'm able to fund the projects that I believe in. I'm able to create an environment of beauty. I'm able to host people. I'm able to live from a nourished full cup. I am able to be my very best self. But if I'm constantly struggling and I don't feel worthy to ask for more, to make bigger moves in life, then I'm living at the fraction of my potential. And that is not inspiring to myself or to anybody else. So this is where, I also feel with abundance and the prosperity, I look at abundance is embedded in the nature of life, just how love, to me, abundance and love are two divine frequencies that are embedded in nature. Just how you say, everything is made with the fabric of life. Everything is made of the fabric of abundance. And I look at it like this: abundance of energy, abundance of creativity, abundance of opportunities to serve. When you come from that position of abundance of presence, abundance of love, then what happens, you move as an abundant person, and independently what is in your bank account right now, because you are in abundance in motion, you magnetize an opportunity to serve, opportunity to inspire, opportunity to help somebody create their dreams. 3 ways we can turn our gifts into financial resources. Number 1, find how your natural gifts solve somebody's challenge. And that's your job to discover that. Nobody can unlock that for you, but your job to seek mentors who can help you with that. So the first one, focus on how can I help somebody to solve a challenge. The second way is unveil the mysteries, right? Maybe you are a deeply mystical person who spent years on the spiritual path and you unlocked some keys to the universe. Be the spokesperson for the mysteries. There are so many people who are seeking answers to the mysteries of life, big transcendental questions. You can create prosperity by being the messenger for that. And the third way is help somebody achieve their dreams. Right? That's three direct ways we can turn our knowledge, our skills and talents into financial resources.
Wow. This is ally. This is, this podcast is just, it's a master class. This is really a master class, because these three steps, anybody that is on the fence of like, what do I do? How do I leave my 8 to 9 job, right? I don't even know if it's 8 to 9. I think I just created more hours because I love working, right? But how do I transition into this? These three are a very simple map, right? Into not only pivoting our own selves into our next elevated version of ourselves, but to really serving human beings. I gotta say this: you are the only human on earth that convinced me for reincarnation. We're going to talk about now the Atlantean wisdom, because I remember us in the previous year saying like, "Oh, we're done with this reincarnation," as if we, someone told me in the Shaolin school that I attend, a monk said, "And you think you're going to be able to decide?" I'm like, I believe so. He's like, no, no, depending on your karma and your dharma and the way that you live this life, that is already imputing. Look at this, imputing information into the reincarnation, like GP, the chronometer or the GPS thing. And you think you're going to be able to decide, but what is deciding your next life is the choices you're making today. I was like, oh, Anyways, but it's you that you said to myself, to Christina, to a couple of us in a boat, in your birthday, cruising the ocean, of course, in a spectacular manner. Allies, we're returning back, we're reincarnating, all of us. No, why? You're like, it's okay. 100 years. You even gave us 100 years of grace of like, okay, but I mean, with this wisdom of yours, you truly are wisdom in motion, and we're not even starting with the gene keys, but I'm going to ask you about them in a moment, because I know you are an incredible teacher of the gene keys. I was able to attend one of your live retreats, and it was like right on the spot. So tell us, my ally, about the current offerings you have of that bridges very perfectly, very beautiful businesses and spirituality, because the way you teach is always increasing our wealth in every single area of our life. So tell us about your offerings, and I would love for you to speak a little bit about the gene keys, and then the Atlantean. I can say it in Spanish, la escuela de la sabiduría de los Atlantes, the Atlantean Wisdom School.
Wow.
Yeah, I
That
know.
is so beautiful in Spanish.
Yes,
Oh,
because Spanish people, in Spanish in Mexico, they are very tuning into that. I mean, when you announced it, it's like, oh, people of Mexico, people of Latin America, hopefully they will, when they listen, because our podcast is more promoted in Latin America, of people that speak English, I think they resonate to this. So please share with us your offerings, your current offerings, and talk to us a little bit about what you do with the Gene Keys and your school. And then we'll go to the Peru trip, if you have space. Yeah. So we go Jinkies, Atlantean wisdom, and then we go to Peru. This is our next.
ooh, I love that. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share about this. When it comes to Gene Keys, to me is such a beautiful access to a living oracle and a living transmission that is appealing to us modern people. It teaches you how to engage with life in a completely new way, how to open yourself up to a beauty of simplicity, how to nourish yourself with divine wisdom, how to get to know 11 unique gifts that your soul has chosen, 11 unique archetypes, and also 11 unique patterns of fear of how you tend to hold yourself back based on your generational programming. And once you see that, it's very empowering, because then you go beyond comparing yourself, who is going faster than you, who is doing better than you. You say, this is my unique map of consciousness, this is my compass towards my true destiny. And it's so accurate and it's so precise. It's based on your astrological data. I highly recommend everybody to dive into the Gene Keys. I have a self-study course that people can access. It's very accessible, and I teach workshops on an ongoing basis.
Yeah, we'll make sure to put all the links. Everything is in your website, correct? Okay,
Yes.
so we'll make sure, but I really recommend people because you are the one, I know Richard Roth, my friend of tea, we have such a deep connection because of tea. And then the Jinkies. And then I found out that, when I was interviewing him, he was the number one guest in our podcast when we started, when the podcast was called Sovereign Future. So I just wanted to honor that. But I remember him telling him looking at my chart, and he said, you have the same opposite chart as myself. I don't know if that's good or not, but I love that you just said it's your unique map of consciousness. Phew, because comparing myself with Richard Roth, it will send me to a very interesting trip. But my ally, so you have these incredible offerings from business mastery to everything, and you have this new offering that I want to speak briefly to of the Atlantean School. Please share briefly with us. I know we have a few minutes left, but I feel so called to promote this and to let people know that this exists. So please share with us.
Atlantean Wisdom School is called Initiation. And what is it about? It's unveiling ancient spiritual technology to help people, to teach people how to architect their ultimate reality. It's a school that will train modern metaphysicians, spiritual scientists, seers, and oracles who are not will be only cosmically connected but firmly rooted on the ground, because when we access that deep ancient knowledge, we rise in our responsibility to lead in a new way. The vision behind Atlantean School and why Golden Age of Atlantis is such an inspiration for me is because the way they understood power is radically different from how we see power here. In ancient Atlantis, you would only be fit to lead if you were able to cultivate the ultimate inner power, which is inner harmony between your lower nature and your higher nature. And your ability to cultivate that equanimity was a mark that you were fit to lead. And to me, when I see that and I take a stand for spirit centered leadership, and that is taking a stand of transforming our lower nature and to continue with eagerness and humility and to continue to activate that divine potential so we lead and serve the planet in integrated, harmonious way.
I love that, and I love when you announce this. I love that this school is going to be opportunity for people to have a new businesses too, because some of them, that choose to certify through your programs, through the programs of your school. I mean, they're going to be able to do another way of living, and I love that this really is like a scanner of who is fit for leadership. Can I be really fit to lead? I absolutely love this, my ally. And now tell us a little bit about your upcoming trip to Peru. Do you still have spaces available? Because I think you're such a shamanic, integrated modern wizard and incredible, leader as a woman and in retreats. I collided with you some, and you bring such eloquence and so much nurturing for people too. So I can imagine that Peru is like that. So when is Peru? Again, we'll share all the links, but tell us a little bit about this before we close this with a blessing of strength for the people that are listening.
Peru retreat is happening in one of the most beautiful times to be there, which is April, mid of April in 2024. Peru to me it represents the heart of Mother Earth. Energy will nourish every part of your being while expanding the vision of what is possible for your life, where you are in the presence of the ancient mountains that are like these spiritual elders, while being nourished by the softness and the beauty of the Andes and witnessing how different people live, how it's a communal, heart centered living. You are touched and you're transformed. So we go for 9 days in April and 10 days at the end of September, 2 retreats next year. And the theme is to nourish those who always nourish others. This is the retreat that is for spiritual facilitators, for leaders, for entrepreneurs, for people who are on the front lines, or people who are parents. As a parent, you're on the front line all the time, right? So it's anybody who is always in service or taking care of others or in leadership. I create a space for you to replenish your cup and to come back and to see your life in a new way.
Wow, my ally. So look at me. I'm like, I got to remind myself that I'm interviewing you. I'm just mellow in a very mellow, beautiful space. And I do want to, we're closing the podcast now. The time has come to do that. But we have a little ritual in the podcast that at the end we ask you, in this case, to give a blessing. And in the blessing for the people that listen to us is a blessing of strength, because the whole journey, everything you have shared requires, I love that you said, oh, how courageous you are. No, it was a necessity. That's strength, right? Taking your faith into action, it requires strength, the strength of God, the strength of spirit within us that, we'll be able not only to make it, but thrive about it and to help others, other sentient beings that we go through. So please give a blessing of strength so that people can actually take their faith into action, their business in motion, and extend their spiritual gifts to humanity, because it helps us all. So please.
I invite everybody who listens or watches to close your eyes and to imagine that you can attune to the frequency of strength. And that frequency exists, and by putting your attention on it, you begin to activate it in your life. And the blessing and the prayer that we all trust that life is benevolent. And when it gives us the gift of challenge, it is for the purpose for us to discover the new levels of strength. So may we meet each moment with two most powerful vibrations: appreciation and gratitude. And when we're there, we are in flow, we are in alignment, and strength is who we become. And joy, strength and joy. May you carry this inner flame. May you be an embodiment of your truth. May you actualize your potential. May you live a full life. And may you inspire everybody you touch with the fullness of your life.
Wow. Aho, Amen, Ashe, In Lakesh, all of the words. Mayala, wow, thank you so much. This was such a beautiful blessing prayer of strength, summoning the strength within. And I can't wait to have you back as much as you want and to see you. And we will make sure, again, everyone, that we'll put all the social media channels. Katerina is very active, always generously donating free things. There are free programs and live streams and all of that. I highly recommend for you to connect, to inquire, to click the link of her website, because it's truly an incredible opportunity that will not only help you with your strength, but it will help others, the others that you serve, help them with their strength and their spirituality and their business too. So thank you, my ally. Thank you, the team behind the scenes. And we love you all, and look forward to see you again with another incredible guest. Un besito. Adios. We hope you enjoyed this new episode, and if you did, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere where you prefer to listen to your podcast. Make sure to check the links to everything we mentioned in this episode. For more news, future or past episodes, or for any other inquiry, please visit our website at delaflorteachings.com. Once again, thank you for listening to the Spirituality Now podcast.